Trojan family, what's going on? Welcome to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports. This is your daily dose of USC Trojans news. Hope everyone has recovered, or at least been able to swallow the loss a little better. Obviously, a tough one in Champaign, 2-point loss. We were live directly after the game, getting some fantastic comments from all of you, thoughts, some overreactions, some still positive thoughts and vibes. So a lot of energy and, it was a tough loss, obviously. So I wanted to get on here now, a couple days removed. I think Madman's going to have a video out as well. And then we will be live tomorrow night for the Call-In Show, 7 p.m. Pacific time with myself, Tim Prangley, and typically Madman's with us as well. So make sure to be there for that. USC LAFB YouTube channel. Or on LAFBnetwork.com. We want your calls. It's a caller-driven show. We want to take your calls and get your opinions kind of at the state of the program. So, tough loss. I wanted to get on here real quick today, and obviously, I'm sure many of you have heard. Our good friend USCJ broke it down, I think, yesterday. I've talked to multiple different people and sources about whatever we want to call this, food poison gate going on, or not going on, that happened kind of with the team. Obviously, we know Kamari Ramsey missed the game due to food poisoning, but now there are, I don't know if we want to call them reports yet, but I think many people in the space, and like I said, I've talked to people that have basically confirmed, like, yeah, it was not just Kamari Ramsey. A lot of the team was hit with this food poisoning, and obviously that had a little bit of an effect. So I want to talk briefly about that, how much we could weigh on that, what that means for the program going forward, and just a little bit kind of Lincoln Riley and status kind of the program. And then I'll have some more recruiting videos out. I know I had one promised for this weekend and things just got crazy, especially after the loss. So held off on that, but we'll have plenty more recruiting throughout the week. I'll just say things are still standing fine, so no one needs to fret or trip right now. Quickly talk about our friends over at Sleeper, the number one sports app right now in the Google Play and the App Store. Go download it today. When you do, when you go to make your first deposit, make sure to use our promo code USC LAFB. It's going to get you a match deposit bonus up to $100. You put in $5, you get $5 free. You put in $100, you're going to get $100 free. And you might ask, why am I depositing money in a season-long fantasy league app? Well, it's great for fantasy leagues, but it's a ton of fun doing the daily pick'ems you can do across any sport. Dodgers taking on the Reds tonight, 6 p.m. in the World Series. If you want to play some pick'ems on baseball, or you got your college football, but all you're doing is you're picking 2 to 8 players. You can mix and match across sports, across teams, and you're just picking more or less. So tonight, Blake Snell, I haven't looked at it yet, but how many strikeouts does he get, more or less? Shohei Ohtani, 1 or more home runs, more or less. So download the Sleeper app, use our promo code USCLAFB. Telling the guys over at the LAFB network sent you. All right, food poison gate. So yeah, I think it's pretty confirmed at this point. I've talked to people. We've had multiple other content people. USCJ did a whole video yesterday about, people he had talked to. I think our Scott Schrader has kind of confirmed it. I've seen it on 247 Sports, has kind of confirmed it on their message board. So seems like a very real thing that a lot of the team was hit with food poisoning from hotel catering the night before. Now, the team has not said anything after the game. Lincoln Riley didn't even bring it up. And I've seen a lot of people like, well, if this was a real thing, why wouldn't the team just say it? To me, I think this is a good thing. It's showing they're not making any excuses. Like, they could have very easily said, and we've seen Lincoln Riley do this in the past, right? Talking about the team being sick before. Now, he's only done it after wins. I've never once seen after a loss say, oh man, well, we were sick. Like, I think there was one last year, I'm trying to remember the game. Maybe it was the Nebraska game where they won, and he said, yeah, I'm really proud of the guys. We had kind of a flu epidemic all week, and these guys battled and got the win. So I've never heard him use it as an excuse in a loss, which he didn't on Saturday. And I think that's a good thing. Because then, fans are going to say what they want, but some fans would say, oh, okay, that's a good excuse. Some fans would say, oh, there he is making excuses. So you can't win, right? But yeah, they've never said it, but apparently a good majority of the team. Now, I haven't didn't specifically hear me personally. I didn't specifically hear other players, but watching the defense, and obviously it wasn't the entire team, right? Like I don't. Again, I don't want to speculate, but it seemed like Mekhi Lemon, I think, was probably fine. Jaden Mayava may have been fine. So whatever defensively, maybe those rooms got this bad batch, whatever, of hotel catering. So, but again, I don't think that alone qualifies a loss. You gotta battle through. You gotta have depth. Now, playing with food poisoning is no joke. So I'll get to that in a second. So, but I'm just saying, I don't think we can't say, okay, qualifies loss, but it does explain some things. Like when we saw the defense go from dominant defensive front to just getting pushed around and gashed at will from Illinois' offensive line, this can explain some things like, hey, if your body is legitimately at 50% and you're weaker and you can't necessarily hold any fluids down or whatever. I mean, anyone that has food poisoning, you're not functioning at your full self. So Illinois is not just some scrub team, as I've said many times. And if you're not at your full self, you're going to get pushed around. And so watching the game and just being like, what is going on? Why is this defense regressing from not just last year, but almost from last week? Like, what is, like, this defensive line at the very minimum was at least dominant. Like, yes, we have questions about the secondary. Yes, the linebackers, who I think are doing okay. Gentry's been fantastic, but the others have been growing. There's obviously been some questions, but just a huge, relapse. And yeah, so this at least explains it. Not an excuse, but it gives some reasoning of okay, hopefully this was an outlier. Hopefully this defense is quote unquote soft, or this defense can get bullied and pushed around, or this defensive front was just a mirage playing bad competition. Now, we still have those questions, right? Like, we need to see them do it against a top-tier offensive line, which they will get to do here in 2 weeks against Michigan, which will have plenty of coverage leading up to that game. So they will be able to set the record straight. But at least we have some answers as to why it was so bad, why it did look so daunting. So, as I said in the live after the game, let's see how this team responds. You are not defined by one loss or one game unless you let that one game define you. Right? We can draw parallels all across. Ohio State last year loses to Michigan. The sky was falling. Holy cow. You thought it was bad out here in LA last Saturday? In Columbus, after they lost to Michigan, it was fire. Everyone, Ryan Day, they go on a run and win the national championship. They did not let that one loss define them as a team. Now, Buckeye fans maybe still let that define them. That game means so much to them, which is why it's such a storied rivalry. But the team itself, the program, did not let that define them. They go on and win the national championship. USC, if they move on, go win this game, don't let this one loss define your season. And prove that what I said last week, that this is not last year's USC team, is a reality. And beat a good Michigan team that, has some questions of their own, has a freshman quarterback, but obviously we know they're talented in the trenches. They've got talented defensive players. They've got a good coaching staff, so it's going to be a battle. But if you remember last year, obviously they lost the game, but after losing to Minnesota, and things looked bad, they come home, get to host the number 4 ranked team in Penn State, should have won that game, but at the very minimum were highly competitive and looked like a good football team. Just didn't have the horses to close it out. Some mistakes at the end. We talked about last year enough. So how do they respond to what happened last Saturday and come out and take this season's narrative into their own hands, into their own control? How does the coaching staff respond in getting these players ready? How do the team leaders respond? I think they'll respond in a great way. I really do. I really believe that. And that's not just sunshine pumping. I think we've seen enough over the last, let's call it 365 days. When you think about this time last year, this team was what, 2-2? I think we've seen that this team will respond. Now, can they close those responses out and turn them into wins? This team never quit last year. They responded every week. They stayed together. They just still couldn't close out games. So this year, can they be different? And can we see this defense truly improve? So if what we're hearing is true and they were sick, that is a legit thing. Again, anyone that's had food poisoning, like, you're not playing a football game. And if you are, you're not playing well. Most normal people with food poisoning are like calling out from work, laying in bed. Like, I know people me, essentially have a desk job. Food poisoning, I'm like, yeah, I'm not talking on the microphone. I'm not typing on my keyboard. Imagine playing football against a top 25 school on the road in the Big Ten. So it's not an excuse, but it is, like I said, it gives reasoning for some of what we saw. Some of the lack of push. Now, the secondary still has obviously real issues regardless of being sick or not. Obviously, getting Kamari Ramsey back will be a huge help. Obviously, if Alex Graham does come back, that will be, we think it's a big help. I think a lot of people are expecting him to be like the savior in the secondary. He's a true freshman that's never played college football before. So he had a fantastic fall camp, but we've yet to see him ever play. I think he's going to be really good. We've only heard fantastic things, but everyone needs to get out of their head that this is like some savior of the secondary. Like, we've never seen him play. But I think it will be a help, obviously, and hopefully it allows Kamari Ramsey to slide back. We saw D. Riddick, true freshman, coming at nickel. He came in late, didn't come to USC till June, was injured in fall camp. So for the lack of, I guess, readiness, saw some good things from him. Talent's there. I think there's a bright future there. But we still need to see this secondary truly come together. Will it be DeCarlos Nicholson and Marcellus Williams moving forward on the outside? Will Braylon Conley get more reps on the outside? DJ Harvey has been relegated to a backup. I think he had, 5 snaps? And one, unfortunately, which I thought was not a great call, but unfortunately was that pass interference on the final drive. So still plenty of questions on the secondary. We'll get some of those answers, or not get those answers, but we'll get some chatter from the coaching staff and some of those players this week during the bye week practices, and then obviously next week leading up to Michigan State. So we shall see. But I just want to get on here because, again, this is not a video of making excuses, but at least it gives some reasoning for what we saw on Saturday, because it just didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. Like, the defensive line being as good as they were, just getting mauled like they were. It just, yeah. So, I mean, at least we have a little bit of, okay, I get it now. And they still almost pulled off a win. So, I think that's a positive, at least, development, if you will. Now let's see, again, fully healthy, how this team looks and how they respond. So, but based on these reports and based on what I've heard, like, calling this team soft, I think, I mean, it's the opposite. You battle through sickness, like, that's the opposite of being soft, right? Like, you're out there for your teammates, giving it your all with no energy, no real strength, and you're still out there battling as hard as you can to try to get a W. Like, that's the opposite of soft. And last thing I'll say on that, I've seen a ton of keyboard warriors and people on social saying, like, this team's soft, they practice soft. Like, I really want to know, genuinely, and if you have, like, if you're a booster or whatever and you want to comment, please do, but, like, how many people saying that have actually seen practice that say, like, they practice soft? I've seen a couple practices. I've actually been there. It's not a soft practice. I can tell you that much. Not a soft. I've seen the same people in the same breath say, man, what are they doing at practice that all these guys keep getting injured in practice? And then say they practice soft because they play soft. Like, you can't have it both ways. Either they're practicing hard and that's why dudes are getting injured, unfortunately, but you're trying to emulate that game time, that game day atmosphere, or you practice soft and no one gets injured. Can't really have it both ways. So I would just love to be enlightened by those that say that if they've actually seen practice or they're just kind of spewing that out there. Because I haven't been at practice since the season started because they're closed to media, but we were invited to a few full practices during fall camp. And they're not soft practices. I've been to plenty of NFL training camps. I've been to NFL practices in season. Those are kumbaya patty cake circles in the NFL. Like, they don't do anything at practice. Probably the most physicality they have is in the weight room. Like, they don't, especially love the Rams. Obviously, we cover the Rams. Rams are great. Great win over the Colts. Rams don't breathe on each other. They don't play in the preseason. I can tell you for a fact that the stuff I've seen at USC practices is not soft. Now, we need that mentality, obviously, to carry over into games and improve. But based on the reports of food poisoning, that kind of makes sense last week. Now, if they come out against Michigan and get bullied around, then we can start having a very real conversation about what is actually going on. But I'm kind of going to give a push to this last game. And in today's college football, you can afford a loss. Sometimes two. You don't want to. We want to see this team win out, obviously, and I think they're good enough to do that. But the sky is not falling. You're not firing everybody, which they're not anyway. So everyone can yell at clouds if they want. No one is getting fired after a 2-point loss on the road when your team was struck with food poisoning. So that's my 2 cents. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Always appreciate you, as always. Like I said, I'll have some recruiting news out hopefully this week at some point. Everything I've heard and talked to, class is still great. This one loss didn't all of a sudden have recruits jumping off the bandwagon. Everyone's still fired up. Again, it was a good atmosphere, a good game. They almost pulled off the win. Oh, last thing I'll say, really quick, because it's getting overblown. But everyone, obviously, we talked about it a lot on the live, was the decision to score right away out of the 2-minute timeout, which then gave Illinois a minute 55 to go down and win. And Riley got crushed for that. Game management. And I get it. It didn't work out. We've talked to a bunch of people afterwards, after just kind of the raw emotion of the game, and talked to some coaches, other analysts, fans. And at the end of the day, you have to just get points when you can. You can't, and I know Riley said this in his press, but you can't get cute. Obviously, you would love to run the clock down, especially with the way the defense was playing. That's kind of the big counter argument, which I get. Like, because I remember seeing after that game, I watched the Indiana-Iowa game. Indiana scored. Granted, it was a breakaway play with Surratt, but they scored to take the lead with a minute 43 left, giving Iowa plenty of time. They ended up closing the game. Not a word was said about it. Who was it? Against Mississippi State. Why am I drawing a blank now? Tennessee. Tennessee's scenario was like identical. They were down to Mississippi State. They down 7. They come out of the TV timeout, or the 2-minute timeout, in the red zone. They score on the very first play to tie the game. So now the game's tied. They're not even winning. It's tied. And they give Mississippi State the ball back with a minute 55. Now they hold them, and they end up winning in overtime. It's not even a conversation about that clock management. So we know this in sports. It's nothing new. The outcome charters the conversation. If you win, it covers up a lot of mistakes. If you lose, it exposes all the mistakes. And all of a sudden, you're the worst ever. So I get that. That's just the way sports have always been. But I do believe, and again, this is based on other conversations, that in that scenario, you got to take the points how you can get them. Because again, if you run the ball, they're on the 16, they're not on like the 3. It'd be different if they're on like the 3. They're on the 16-yard line, I think. Right? And everything's blending together. But I'm pretty sure they were outside of the 10. What if you run the ball? Cool. Force some timeout, you get 3 yards. Run the ball again, force timeout 3 yards. It's now 3rd and 3. Now you throw it, incomplete pass. 4th and 3. There's still probably, with them taking 2 timeouts, there's still probably a minute 20 on the clock. And now you're up your last shot to get it. You don't get it. Everyone's like, worst clock management? What? So that's the worst case scenario. But that can obviously happen very easily. And so you got to just, if you can score when you score, you score. Take the points, and you hope that your defense steps up in that one instance and gets the job done. Obviously, it didn't happen, so everyone wants to tear down that side of it. I mean, the other scenario is you throw a pick or you fumble. Then it looks even worse. So, anyway, just I don't think there is a perfect answer. I'll just leave it at that. The perfect answer is you win and then no one gives 2 Fs, right? Win the game and then it's not even a conversation. But when you lose with any team, I'm not just saying Lincoln Riley, in any sport, it exposes every little mistake, and those become the large talking points after the game. And that's what sports are. So, anyway, appreciate you guys. Give me your thoughts. Drop in the comments below. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Become a member here on the channel or become a member over at LAFBnetwork.com. It helps support LAFB. It's a huge help to us. Plus, 20% of your membership every month will be donated to help youth sports initiatives right here in Los Angeles. So you're helping a good cause as well. You get merchandise discounts, branded content discounts, all stuff like that. And again, you just help support us over at LAFB. So can't thank you enough. Hope everyone has a fantastic day. We'll be back with plenty more content throughout the week. Let me know your thoughts. As always, fight on.